sports fans? I'm your host, Quinn Lowe.
And I'm Antoine Jackson.
And we're back for another episode of Between Classes Sports. Tonight, we got to start off. We've been away for a minute, so I guess we got to catch up some people with a recap of National Signing Day, see what USF did, see what some of the local guys did, where they're going, and where they'll be continuing some of their next education. In addition to that, later on in the show, we're going to be tapping into what happened with the USF program, the men's and women's. Looks like they're struggling over at the Sundome.
Struggling.com going on right now. But we're going to try to hopefully work out these kinks, get everything situated. Hopefully the coaches can get these players focused so we can, get this losing taste out of our mouth right now.
But before we get to that, one coach at USF that seems to have finally got something right is Coach Taggart. Looking at this recruiting class, they lead the American Athletic Conference. They had the top class in the American Athletic Conference. Now, that may not be sounding like much before for a team that only had 2 victories in conference and really didn't do well.
Right.
And everybody got off the bus. Everybody started stealing stuff off the bus just to go back.
Throwing oranges at the bus.
Right.
It's
a sign of hope.
Right.
The key recruit for that class has to be the athlete Quentin Flowers from Miami. I know you're a Miami guy. You keep your tabs. You're a Hurricane fan. You keep your tabs on the area down there. What are your thoughts on young Quentin?
Well, from my inside sources, they said that Quentin Flowers was a gem prospect who many felt should have had an offer to the University of Miami. He went to the Miami Jackson. I heard he's a special kid. So basically, I'm looking forward to this year. If the offense is stalling, if the quarterback plays suspect, now he's coming in as a receiver.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of his highlights on YouTube. Me and my sources, we have to go and evaluate this film and see what do they think about it. But if anything stalls, he's definitely a playmaker who could probably do some things. And I'm thinking that the recruiter from Miami, Hurley, I believe it's Hurley Brown. It's a recruiter from Miami on USF staff who has I heard he's Tully, something to that nature. I have to find out. But I heard he's a key recruiter, and he has a key to a lot of
And that's the one thing you have to look at. When you're in the state of Florida, there's certain areas that you must recruit. And Miami is one of those areas. It's been a hotbed, regardless of how well the Hurricanes have been doing. There's always been talent to come out of that area. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do with some of this talent. You mentioned the fact that if they start to have some issues at the quarterback position, I can recall even during some of the press conferences that Coach Taggart mentioned he was at the point midway through the season where he was just trying to get the best players out there. Whether it meant having some offensive guys play defense, whether it meant some defensive guys playing offense. So if he's staying true to that even going into his second season, there is a possibility that he may give Flowers the opportunity to play quarterback a la Denard Robinson coming out of Florida because he was actually a defensive back.
Correct.
He was recruited by Florida as a defensive back, but Michigan was one of the few schools that offered him the quarterback position. And I think that's what made him feel comfortable going up north.
Yeah, with the recruiting class, from what I noticed, he has players from Immokalee, Sarasota, basically Tampa. A lot of players from Tampa also. So the city locations, from what I'm seeing, Fort Myers, where he's getting these players up from. I'm seeing these players, they know how to play football. So it looks like maybe Willie's doing some positive things. And, after his first year, Skip Holtz was here for 3 years, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
So, Willie has a pass. He has his first pass. So now we get to see what type of players he's bringing in, his identity. What does he have to bring to the table?
And one of the players I think stands out, in addition to Flowers, is running back Marlon Mack. He was initially committed to UCLA. Some of the bigger schools jumped on him late. And the fact that he was willing to come to USF says a lot about the program.
Oh, yeah.
So he might have saw what they were able to do last year with the running game and saw a hole there. And that's the one thing I think a lot of these younger players are looking for. Opportunities to play as soon as possible. They don't want to go. Yes, you have a couple of guys that are willing to go to Alabama, bide their time 2 or 3 years while they collect the rings.
Right.
But if you're not going to Alabama, if you're not going to Ohio State, if you're not going to even Florida State, why would you sit at a program like Florida, who really isn't playing up to snuff, when you can go to UCF, you can go to USF, you can go to some of these smaller programs.
Dominate the conference.
Dominate the conference, play well, and then project yourself as a top 10 pick like Bortles is right now for UCF, who was formerly of UCF. So it's going to be interesting. We got to show some love to some of the Tampa recruits that he did pull in. He has 2 linebackers, Vincent Jackson from Jesuit, Juwan Brown from Jefferson High. He has a couple of cornerbacks also, Mazzy Wilkins from Plant and Taji Fullwood from Tampa Bay Tech. I've heard about this young guy Fullwood because I know a couple of guys that play at Tech, and they were actually surprised that he stuck with Taggart in USF because he had a good senior season and he started to get some looks from some bigger programs. So it shows the loyalty that he's starting to develop for this area. And just like Golden needs to do down in Miami, you have to kind of put that fence around your area.
Willie's fence.
If only way somebody is able to come in Hillsborough County, Polk County, even some of this area is if you don't want him.
Right.
Now, if this is a guy that's high on your list, just short of a top 10 school coming into Tampa, you should not be able to lose him out. You should not be losing guys to, especially now with Charlie Strong not there, to Louisville anymore.
No more.
You should not be losing guys to Vanderbilt since James Franklin isn't there anymore.
Correct.
So, these were the type of schools that before they were losing mid-level, even top-level Tampa Bay players too. So now hopefully that kind of takes some of the pressure off of him, and he can now recruit some of the better players in the area. It gives the fans an opportunity to go to the games because they recognize these guys. I guarantee alumni Jesuit, alumni Plant are not going to be more inclined to go to a USF game because they see players they recognize. They see guys that's been there recently, so it makes a lot more sense. It's harder to pull somebody in from another state, even though he did do some good recruiting in Georgia and in some of the neighboring states. But it's always easier to convince a guy to stay home than it is to convince a guy to make that travel because they're leaving their families, they're leaving their friends, and they're leaving their comfort zone.
Well, let's not make a mistake about it. Willie was winning at Western Kentucky. He did make them somewhat relevant out there coming out of the Harbor Circle, Harbor account.
Yeah.
So he has resources, he has tools, so now he's able to get the guys that he really wants into his program. And, basically maybe we can see something come around, an identity. Last year they really didn't have an identity.
Because they didn't have the players. It started at the top. They didn't have a quarterback. So everything else fell apart for them. Once they had the struggles at that position, no matter what they did everywhere else, the defense had moments, but the defense could only play well so long because the offense was turning the ball over. The offense was 3-and-outs. Or Andre Davis will have a good play, and that will be it.
Well, Andre didn't really have a quarterback to really give him. Not the type of quarterback I think when he signed with USF, I'm quite sure he thought he was going to have a more passing, efficient quarterback.
I mean, he
not his
BJ.
quarterback, but reduce the injuries and the offensive line where they can't really. We're not saying they can't protect, but doing the transition from Holtz leaving, Willie coming in, new offense, players have to get it together. So he went through a couple of things, but I would say keep an eye on the Ernest Johnson from Immokalee. He had offers from UCLA. Also offers from Florida, a couple of powerhouse schools at the running back position. So, Willie was able to reel him in also. So maybe he's really probably ready to do some things and make some noise and, get the fans excited to, possibly come out and win some games. Definitely more than 2.
Oh, definitely. I think this is where you have to give a coach at least 2 or 3 years because that's when you start to get a lot more of his players and that's where you develop an identity. That's where you develop a toughness, an inner toughness, because this is what you really want. The great coaches can coach anybody, but if you're a coach in a smaller city, in a smaller school, you have to be able to kind of adapt and be able to find the best that you can, work with what you can until you get your own players.
Didn't Willie bring in Bobby Rainey from Western Kentucky? He was under Taggart out.
I think so. Yeah. So he can find some gems. So. If he can, and we've named a couple of guys that we're going to definitely keep an eye out for to see if they can be the ones to help repair that bus.
Live up to the hype.
And make it so it's drivable and it's going in the right direction.
I'm excited already. I'm ready to see Quentin Flowers already. See
and we'll definitely be there for the green and white spring game. So keep tuned in, and we'll definitely give you some updates about that. But it's almost time for us to go to break. But when we come back, it's time to get into the basketball talk. And this is where, I hate to say it, if they had a bus, it's starting to run out of gas.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
And we'll be back.
Definitely.
Hello, my name is Toby Scott.
And hello, my name is Enrico Chow.
And I'd like to congratulate all the new businesses out there, and from Charles Scott Key Saves.
What we provide in the Tampa Bay community is we provide headshots, banners, business cards, and postcards.
And on our link, on our website and link, you can also click the which one that best fits you, and we'd like to hear from you soon.
Congratulations.
Welcome back to Between Classic Sports. I'm your co-host Quinn Lowe,
And I'm Antoine Jackson.
and this week's game recaps is sponsored by C-Vibe. And it's time to get back into USF sports. The men's, which one you want to go with? The men's and women's first? Ladies first or men's?
Ladies first. Ladies first.
On Sunday, USF took it on the chin against the number one team in the country, the UConn Lady Huskies. The final score was, let me make sure, 63-38. Now, ironically, that was the lowest scoring output by the Huskies this year. So, even in a blowout defeat, you have to be able to take away the fact that USF did do some good things, but they just couldn't get it going.
I have some compelling numbers for you to check out. As far as field goal percentage, UConn ladies shot 47%, USF ladies shot 26%. And as far as three-point percentages, UConn shot 43%, USF shot 28%. And as far as free throws, now USF ladies, they shot 75%, but that's 3 for 4 free throws. UConn ladies, they shot 87%, and they shot about 16 free throws.
Right. And I think that was the biggest issue. The 26% that you talked about was the lowest shooting percentage of the season for USF. So they picked
the wrong time to shoot the lowest. But that's a testament to defense, though.
Right.
That's the number one team in the nation. Pressure bust pipes.
And that was the one thing, even in the press conference, Coach Gino Auriemma, as well as the lead dog defender, Mariah Jefferson, kept emphasizing she has taken that lead not only against USF, but a lot of the other teams that they've played is being the one player to take on the best offensive player from the opposing team.
And what did she do to Courtney?
And she shut Courtney down.
No.
3 of 18. 0-5 from three-point line. 1-1 from the free throw line for 8 points. Now, this is a young lady, I think, at this point in the season, may have had...
19. She was averaging about 19 a game.
It's not that high. I think it's kind of tapered off some, but she's had at least 7 20-point games.
Right.
So, in the last game against UConn, she put up 23.
Oh, so they knew about it.
They knew about it.
Okay.
And I think that's, once again, that's what good teams do.
Yeah.
Good teams make that adjustment, and they will focus on you. In addition to Courtney being shut down, Alicia Jenkins also got shut down. She was 0-7, 1 point, 4 rebounds. So
well, the UConn women, they're a team that takes pride. So when Courtney hit those 23 that first game, even though they won, they probably went back into the locker room and said to themselves, we won, but that Courtney, she gave us some buckets. So coming for the second game, they were a little bit more prepared for, which ultimately should help Courtney step her game up more. But let her know that hey, she's on the map now. You give UConn 23 now, you're on the map nationwide as far as the women pipeline is concerned.
Right.
The ladies know Courtney, so now she has to just pretty much work harder because hey, you do that to one of the best contenders.
And going in the next season, whoever she plays, they're gonna look out for her.
Oh, yeah,
she's gonna be their number one person on their scouting report.
She may be first team all conference next year.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, first team all preseason.
And speaking of all conference, all American, all whatever, Brianna Stewart from UConn. This is not fair. The whole time I'm watching the game, I kept saying, this is not fair for somebody to be 6'3" with a jump shot like that. Most of her shots, you would think for post players, with somebody that much size, would be a post interior type player. She was hitting jumpers a lot better than some of their guards. She hit the 3-pointer that she did make look effortless. And she's embarked. I think if she's not already passed it, she's on the brink of passing the 1,000-point mark as a sophomore.
So you were very impressed with.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Her and Bria Hartley, who was the engine that made the team go. Hartley was efficient on 7 of 14 shooting, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. And I give all 3 of those numbers because she's about to be the 3rd player in UConn women's history to score 1,500 points, 500 rebounds, and 500 assists. only 2 other women.
You know who they are?
Yes, only 2 other women in team's history have done that.
Who could they be?
Maya Moore
Uh-oh.
and Diana Taurasi.
Uh-oh.
So for her to be in that rarefied air says a lot about her. And she showed out, and it was apparent that this team was on a mission. Even in the press conference, they continually asked them about the records and the achievements, but they kept focusing on the fact that they were looking forward towards trying to win another championship.
Definitely. I mean, that with UConn, that's the only way you can really solidify your legacy, because they've had so many great teams come before them, finishing tops in the conference, finishing all of it. That's they say, okay, that's nice, but
That's
did you
necessary.
hang it in the rafters?
Right.
Like UConn, you can tell they have a sorority right now. Are you hanging it in the rafters? And and they have the best women's basketball players I have seen consistently.
Right. And I happen
Ever.
to just going through the lineage, you forget about some of the players that have come through
They're
that
loaded.
from that program
They're
and have
loaded.
done great things on the next
They're
level.
loaded. They're
And-
loaded.
But not to take away not to give them all the credit. I will give some props to Inga Orakova. She was the one player for USF that did do something. She ended up with 17 points and was 4-8 from 3-point land.
Okay.
And it seemed like early on, a lot of the USF players was intimidated by that name on the front of the jersey,
This is what they try to do.
and it took a while because they ended up shooting a lot better in the second half. They shot 19% in the first half, 6 of 31. But in that second half, they ended up shooting 34%, which is it's still not good, but when you compare the 2 halves, they played a lot better.
So what was the score at halftime?
The score at halftime was 32-15. And what ended up making it so bad was they had a lot of second chance opportunities. They just could not capitalize.
Finish it.
And these weren't jump shots. These were layups. These were short jumpers. These were shots that I've seen Courtney Williams hit continually. These are shots that I've seen Jenkins hit. And the big girl, Akila McDonald, was non-existent. 1 of 3, fouled out, 2 points. And when you're playing a team that has 2 6-footers, you need some type of inside presence, if nothing more, to make them play defense. You may not be able to score 15, 20 points, but if you make them exert some type of effort on the other side of the ball, that's where the benefit comes in. And we'll get into that even more when we start talking about the USF men's game against UCF, because it was the same situation, because UCF took advantage of their big guys that USF couldn't do. But the women, it's a bad loss, but when you're facing, I've realized in women's basketball, they're the haves and the have-nots. And generally, right now, we look at UConn, who's the number 1 team in the country, and Notre Dame, who's the number 2 team. 2 undefeated programs, and everybody else.
For women's basketball.
Right. And
Stanford isn't what they used to be right now.
no. And
What about Louisville?
I think Louisville last year was just a strike while the iron is hot. They had a lot of leadership. They had some great opportunity. They made it to the Final Four. And they still may be in because they're still ahead of USF in the conference, but I don't think they're the team right now to be able to contend with
What
UConn.
about Rutgers? How do you feel about Rutgers? No.
Still, once again, I think because I think right now, even with the loss, USF is in 4th place. So they're still in good position for the conference tournament and all that, but it's a big enough gap between the two.
The thing is, a lot of those teams are in USF's conference. Nationwide, the Rutgers and the Louisvilles and things of that nature.
Right. So,
Wow.
But before it's time to get to these men. But I got to ask you this first before, even after they took a tough loss to the in-state rival UCF Knights, 75-74 on the last second shot by guard Isaiah Sykes. First of all, I got to give the dude some props because he's from Detroit. Didn't even know this.
Here we go.
And anytime I can throw up the D, I will do it. And the 2 matchups he's had against USF, 51 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists.
Oh, he lights up.
So he lights up.
You see yourself, he's going to work.
And actually,
Right.
it wasn't. He had 27 points in the game in the Sun Dome, but it wasn't him that stood out. For me, it was Justin McBride. Now, this is a guy in the first game that didn't play. Spent most of the time. I think he was still recovering from knee surgery, but he came in 14 minutes, scored 13 points, 3 or 4 shooting, 5 rebounds, and is a big space eater. This young man, as a freshman, is 6'10", 310.
Do you think USF gave the game away, or UCF just played better? I mean, they lost by 1. Was it? How do you feel about it?
There were some opportunities because the possession before UCF scored, Shemai McClendon, the point guard, drove to the lane and threw up an ill-advised shot. Now, Coach Heath tried to kind of cover it up in the course of the press conference and say that was a play that they wanted, but everybody in that room knew that could not have been the play that he wanted. I think he wanted the penetration from the guard, but he did not want him shooting the ball because for the game, he was 1 of 4. He was 1 of 3 going into that point, so I definitely do not think he wanted him shooting. Whereas when you had Victor Rudd, who ended up with 21 points, and then Martino Brock ended up with 21. I would rather have the ball in those 2 guys' hands at taking the last shot.
Yeah, with them putting it like that, definitely. And I also noticed, the game seemed like it was close because both of the teams shot around 50% from the field goal percentage. Both of the teams shot around 33 to 35% as far as 3-point range is concerned. So, and the free throws were about 70 to 8. One team, USF had 70%. I'm sorry, USF had 80% free throws. UCF had 70. So the numbers also indicate that it was definitely a tough game. The time before USF had beat UCF by 1 point, so UCF just basically brought back some of the medicine. That rivalry on I-4, hey, I give it to you, you give it back to me.
Oh,
that's how it goes. So.
And this was a situation in which all season USF has been struggling from 3-point land. They are the worst percentage shooting team in the nation. 25-26% from the field.
That's inexcusable.
But in this matchup, they hit 6. They were 6 of 17. They ended up shooting 35%. They hit enough shots for it in the course of the game to be able to win. It was just, and I gotta ask you.
You gotta stop real quick. You mean to tell me the last in the nation shooting from downtown?
Yep.
First of all, there's no snow in Florida. There's no reason. There is no snow, no ice. There's no reason why this team should be shooting last in the nation from downtown. You got sunny skies on a regular basis. You're not getting snowed in.
They may need to get snowed in so they can stay in the gym.
Well, maybe so.
They have too much free time to go enjoy the nice weather.
There's 120 schools in the country. You know
Plus.
what the best conferences in the country, the American Athletic. How could you be? You have to take some pride somewhere.
Right.
Now you can't shoot last place in the nation. That means you're not shooting it. You're not shooting in the gym, dog.
Right.
You're not shooting in the gym.
And the ironic thing about it is, Corey Allen, within the first 5 minutes of the game, hit 2 3-pointers.
Okay.
Guess how many he hit for the rest of the game?
How many?
None.
Did he shoot any?
He was 2 of 5 the rest of the game. And this is a question that a lot of people have been having. What's going on with his confidence? What's going on with his consistency? Because there have been games.
Flashes, well, he has 18. It looks nice from downtown. And he's throwing it up, and then next game he's nowhere to be found.
And I talked to some people pre-game before the game started, and they were saying he was shooting lights out in warm-ups. So I don't know what happens between warm-ups and the lights going on for game time. Where
defense.
Probably where he gets that stage fright.
You know what happens also? Like you say, the kid from Detroit, the last 2 games he had a nice outputs.
Right.
So maybe sometime if that's a situation, that player's putting pressure on him to play better defense.
True.
So if you're struggling to maybe guard this guy, when you get the ball in offense, you feel like you got to maybe do something to get your bravado.
That you're really not capable of doing.
Or you not at the time. And, he got caught up in the showdown in the OK Corral, and the D represented.
Right. Now, and this is a question that's been kind of circulating around, not only in the press room, but on sports talk radio.
Inside scoop.
Should the heat be on Coach Heath? As far as him and his job.
Well, I mean, maybe not so much heat, but concern.
Okay.
Concern because when you play these premier teams, there's not even a competition.
Right.
It's not tough. They play UConn.
And got the doors blown off of them.
They're
playing Louisville right now.
Same story, different day.
And it's a situation where it's the offense struggles. There's little or no ball movement. I've been at enough home games to see that they've struggled with ball movement and shot selection, and that's coaching.
Right.
At some point, you have to get these young men to buy into your program and
Motivated.
trust you, and
Yeah.
trust the fact that you know what you're talking about. And I don't see it enough. And I'm not saying, and a lot of people kind of are hesitant about this because they remember what happened with Levitz in the football program.
Right.
They fired somebody prematurely, and they've been struggling
Ever
to
since.
recapture that ever since. And this is a guy, Coach Heath got them to the tournament, won a couple of games. And I think the fact that he's without his point guard says a lot.
Oh, that hurts. It hurts. That's where you have to sometimes get depth, because right now the USF is definitely missing a kid.
And I think the fact that they had to jump down to Shemaiah, who's I think a sophomore, he's not really ready. And then Josh Heath, his son, was supposed to redshirt this year. And he's had moments. I was shocked that he shot and made a three-pointer, because he is another one of those guards that if he just short of the coach making him walking out on the court and making him shoot, he doesn't want to shoot.
Right.
So I think you have to get these guys outside of Victor Rudd and some of the other, and maybe even Javante Hawkins, who has that itchy trigger finger. You got to get the guards to be willing to take that shot if they're open. Now, I'm not saying force the shot, but if you have a guy that's a foot or so off of you, you have to take that shot, win, lose, or draw.
Well, they say consistency is the brother of excellence, if I'm
Right.
not mistaken. So, if they're missing shots, they just have to pretty much get in the gym, and you got to shoot it out until you get to the point to where maybe drills, YouTube
second
some
nature.
videos,
Yeah.
talk to coaches, do whatever you got to do. But basically, you have to get to the point. If you're I personally feel like if you're a Division I athlete, there's no reason you should be shooting dead last
Right.
in the nation. No reason you should be taking it on the chin like that. That's just me personally.
But we've made it to another end of a great show.
Once again.
And before we go, USF does have a couple of upcoming games. We got to talk about them before we go. On Wednesday, February 26th, the men take on UConn. This is an opportunity for them to get some get back, or hopefully at least stay in the game. Because for those who did not see it, they ended, was it 40 points?
40.
They didn't even show up in Connecticut.
Against Oklahoma State, USF took a tough loss.
Yeah.
Against Louisville, against UConn. Is against Cincinnati. What was the score? They played them pretty tough.
They played Cincinnati pretty tough.
And they beat SMU, so they had a good
Yeah.
win with that one.
Right.
So, but then one time SMU put it on them one time.
Right.
So
So it's just
we got to stop winning like this, guys. We got to do something, definitely. I can't take it anymore.
Right. In addition to that game, the women will take on Memphis on the 25th. Another opportunity for them to bounce back off a tough loss. They've already beaten Memphis on the road in Tennessee. So this is a game. Hopefully Courtney get her footing back.
Courtney will be back.
Jenkins will get okay. McDonald will
They'll be
find an
back.
opportunity to do some things.
I'm not really too much worried about the women in USF.
Oh yeah, they found ways to bounce
They've been
back.
holding it down. They show they're tough. They show resilience. They're like, hey, we got pride over here.
Right.
We just need the guys to kind of, hey, we need you to buy into
Suck
this.
it up.
Please.
This is an opportunity for them to get down to lay down. And also, quick University of Tampa update. The men take on Florida Southern on February 26th, senior night. They're 15-7 currently right now, 8-5 in the conference. That game is at 7:30. And also the women take on Florida Southern at the 26th. This, if I'm not mistaken, is the senior night. And if they win that game, they are in a position to win the conference. So kudos to University of Tampa for handling their business. Hopefully, we might need to send their coaches down there at USF
Stirring the pot.
down to University of Tampa to get
Stir
some
the
notes,
pot.
a coaching clinic or something, because
Oh man, he done kicked the pot away.
winning does not discriminate on levels. If you can win on Division 1, Division 2, you should be able to win on any level. So go find out what's working well for them and take some tidbits. I guarantee it can't hurt at this point.
You a bad man, Q. That's all I can say.
I mean, I gotta say,
Stan gonna be upset with
I
you.
gotta call it like I see it.
I
And
understand
hey,
that. That's what
once
we gotta
again,
have,
but Stan understands because he's Detroit tough as well.
Yes,
So
I
he's
understand.
not gonna be upset. Truth hurts, and he'll recognize the fact that this team should be playing a lot better than they are.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we
So-
had expectations coming into the year. Right now, NIT's looking nowhere.
That's
near.
a
We're
pipe
looking
dream.
at
So this was at least a team that, if at worst, should have been in contention for the NIT, but
nah, this year.
save it for next year. Also, before we go, congratulations on USF for being announced to hold the 2015 Women's Final Four. So they unveiled the logo for the tournament next year. We will be there. I'm already calling that. So be on the lookout for Between Classes Sports as we cover the 2015 Women's National Final Four. And this is a wrap. Was this another?
One more before you track. Don't want to make sense with the dog in the USF team. Victor Rudd, he was on Sports Center top 10, top 5, top plays like twice within the past week or so. So just shout out to that. You know, we gotta leave on a bright spot.
Right.
We still shining.
I will give Victor the props for the highlight dunks, even though it was a Blake Griffin, Dwight Howard throw the ball in the basket, not touch the rim, but we'll take it. You gotta take the points how you can get it.
You gotta take that. You gotta take that.
But I'm Quinn Lowe.
I'm Antoine Jackson.
And time to say goodnight again for Between Classes Sports.
You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through, no slacking. Make it happen, we grinding hard, we grinding hard. You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through, no slacking. Make it happen, we grinding hard, we grinding hard. You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through,